All right, boys. Well, we almost made it to the finish line. Championship Sunday. A lot to get to as we break down these conference championship games later on. But before we get to any of that, we got some big news that turned into maybe no news yesterday. Tom Brady retired. Then we got a little bit of backtracking. Then we got some double downs from reporters about the Brady retirement. We got deleted tweets from Tom Brady's own social media team. I mean, yesterday afternoon was kind of just a wild ride here. What did you make of all that? And I mean, in my mind, I think Brady's going to retire. He's probably just in the middle of putting together an epic video that we are going to get at some point over the next couple of days or weeks. And just didn't want the news released yet. But what did you make of the Tom Brady news? No news, double down. What did you make of all that yesterday?
Mark, you want to start this off? Because I
Sure.
don't like my opinion.
Jared doesn't want to talk about this.
Okay, well,
It's a joke.
so here's the one thing I will say. Conspiracy theories aside about all of this, Tom Brady has said he wanted to play until 45. Tom Brady is 44. So from that standpoint, I will believe Tom Brady because he said it himself he wants to play till 45. Unless I hear it directly from Tom Brady, not his @TB12 Twitter account, and certainly not some reporter. Brady said he wanted to play till 45. I believed him. He said that all along was his goal. He's still got one more year left. I think he plays till he's 45. You have to remember, the Buccaneers owe him $15 million on February 4th as part of his signing bonus. So is it right for him to take that money and then retire? Maybe, maybe not. Depends on who you ask. I mean, he did bring him a Super Bowl, so it's probably worth the $15 million. But when I hear Tom Brady say it is when I'll believe it. Until then, I'll hold off on the speculation that he's actually retired.
Agreed. At this point, I think it's safe to say that the reports were wrong. Even if Tom Brady does end up retiring and the initial, news turns out to be true in X number of days, the fact that the reporters are coming out and saying that he has retired, it's not true because he's refuted it himself. I think that's the issue that I have is just a bunch of clickbait, a bunch of nonsense. I wish that I could have that time back, analyzing in my brain about Tom Brady, whether or not he retired or not, because he hasn't yet. He hasn't told the Bucs that he's retired yet. I don't care what Schefter says. I don't care what Rappaport says. He hasn't retired yet. Maybe he's thinking about it, which is fine. That's an okay report to make. But journalism lost yesterday. Tom Brady won. Journalism lost. And I hope that these reporters, I don't know what went on behind the scenes. I know that there's a give and a take with the information that goes on, but they didn't report the truth yesterday. They reported rumors. They reported things that maybe they heard through this source, through that source. And now we're here stuck in the middle waiting. So unfortunately,
I would add one more thing too.
To be fair, because I'm looking, I wanted to pull up the actual tweet. Sure. Tom Brady is retiring. So it's not has retired. It's kind of the wording is interesting because is retiring. It could be anytime between now and the start of.
Then to me, that's the issue. Is you're just trying to show that you were first. Right. And that is the issue that we have with journalism.
Shefty and Rappaport. I mean,
here's the deal. Again, Brady respects the game too much and he respects his peers too much to take away Championship Sunday and make it about him.
Agreed.
Like, that's 100%. The thing where you say he is retired. He may be retiring, but Brady would wait until after the season to make that announcement, or he would have done it like Ben did and waited till before the playoffs or right after he got eliminated to say, okay, he's still in the news. Brady's not going to wait until 12 hours before kickoff of the championship games of the NFL to do it. Like, he's not A-Rod.
Not going to pull an A-Rod. Like, remember an A-Rod? Yeah, like you're right. He has a lot more class than that. And I think that's why we got the pushback from Brady's camp, is because I don't think he wanted to retire yet. Again, the report might end up being true in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks down the road that he might retire. But the fact that the tweet was sent yesterday, to me, is a knock on just the overall news cycle and the reporting that we do as a society. Everybody wants to be first. They don't care about being right. Let Tom announce it when Tom is ready. To me, that is how this should have happened. And unfortunately, it hasn't because we're talking about it now.
Last thing on this, the first thought that popped into my head, it can't be true because Tom Brady's supposed to go out on top, right? He's supposed to go out like Peyton Manning, like Ray Lewis.
He is on top. He's never not on top.
He just threw for 50 touchdowns.
I know, but he's supposed to go out with that trophy. He's supposed to be, he's supposed to go out right off into the
Super Bowl and still go out on top. Tom Brady's never not been on top.
I agree. All right. Well, before we get into today's show, make sure you download the Pickswise app. It's available in the Apple App Store and on Google Play. And, of course, subscribe to the Pickswise YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any of the content that we put out there. We do this show every day, 10 a.m. Try to give out some winners. We're going to give out a couple today, hopefully. On today's show, before we get into the NFL, we're going to talk some college hoops. We're going to give out some ice picks. Then we're going to get into the conference championship games and then finish things off with our play of the day. So without further ado, let's bet it. And let's start with college basketball. To be completely transparent here, I have no plays in the college basketball space today, just been focusing mostly on football. But we do have a couple of great ranked matchups today. Let's start with Ohio State at Purdue. Right now, Purdue laying 9.5 or 10 points, depending on where you shop. The total 146. It's a lot of points for a conference matchup. Are either of you attacking a side or total? What is your play for this game?
Mark,
Go ahead, Jared. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say you're in on this one, right? I didn't bet this game.
Well, okay. So no, I'm not in on it. Like these are the games that we're going to run down, so I handicapped them. But this is just not a game that I feel very comfortable either on the side or the total. Look, both of these teams are great 3-point shooting teams, right? Purdue is number 4 in America at 41%, and Ohio State is number 39 at 37%. Purdue also averages 84 points per game. That's 4th in America. However, Purdue is really bad against the number this year. They're 4-5 in conference play against the spread, and they are 6-5 as a home favorite this year. So it's hard for me to back them, especially laying this big of a number. Conversely, for Ohio State, they are so dependent on the 3-point shot. It's the only way they can win games and stay in games. Get this, guys. I looked this up. Last time out against Minnesota was the first time this year that Ohio State got to 75 points without shooting at least 40% from 3. So if they're cold from 3, they're getting beat, and they're getting beat badly. And it's just not enough for me to back them, getting 10. And it's certainly not enough for me to trust that I can eliminate variance from them to get to 75, for me to get to 150 to get over this total. I believe Purdue will do their part, but it's certainly, an option that Ohio State could just shoot 27% from 3 and only end up scoring 66 points in this game and never get me there on their own. So there's way too much variance to eliminate in this game for me. If you ask me to lean on a side, I'd lean on Ohio State getting 10, but it certainly wouldn't be a high-level confidence play.
I think when it comes to college basketball, the variance involved with the 3-point shot, it's incredible. Yeah. That being said, this total's dropped significantly. Open 148. I'm seeing 144.5s pop up in the market right now. Caesars has a 145. I'm seeing some books in some other areas hang 144.5. I still see 145.5 still probably consensus, but it looks like this total's trending down. We'll see why. I know there was a player for Ohio State who was questionable in this game. Perhaps that's the reason why. I think it is the name is eluding me at the moment, but I saw it pop up on my Twitter feed a little while ago. But he's a questionable. That could be why the total's dropped about a point or two. But I'll be honest, if both of these teams make their threes in this game, this thing's going to fly over one.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's what are the chances of that happening? Like somebody's going to be cold. If it's one of those games where they're both shooting 45% from 3, yeah, it's going to be a great game to watch and a lot of fun. But there's too much variance there for me, guys.
Jamari Wheeler, by the way, that was the name. It was Rawson just tweeted out about 45 minutes ago. Game time decision in this one. He hasn't played since January 18th. So that would be the name. If Wheeler plays, maybe that total has a little more value to the over. Maybe that's why it's dropping. They expect him to play, and maybe he's not. You're spot on, though, Mark. The Ohio State's the number 1 team in the Big Ten in terms of the amount of 3-point shots they take as a percentage of their total shots. It's about 45%, just under 45%. Their 3-point attempts to field goal attempts, 42.5%. But it's still number 1 in the Big Ten in that category. So they live and die by the 3. Purdue's a really good offensive team.
Yes.
Really, really good. They're leading the Big Ten in offensive efficiency right now, number 1 in shooting percentage. So this kind of feels like an over game. I don't know why the total's dropping. In the 140s now, it's pretty reasonable, I would say. But definitely going to be a 3-point contest for Ohio State. How many they can make, it will depend on how well they play.
We're talking about threes and the variance. We got a comment in the chat here. Yesterday was a big day for the SEC over the Big 12. Unless you were on my play of the day, which was LSU over TCU when a team that was supposed to be one of the worst offensive teams in the country just decided to light it up from three. Talk about variance. I mean, I'd never seen TCU play like that. They probably haven't played like that all year. But of course, they're my play of the day. They get their first win over an SEC school since 1954, I believe. Of course that happens. It happens. It happens. Let's move on though, because we want to get to obviously the NFL real quick. Marquette, who's been really good this year, on the road at Providence. Providence laying 2.5 points at home. How are you feeling about this? Because I feel like Marquette, have they reached like their ceiling? Because I don't think it's possible for Marquette to be playing any better than what they're playing right now. Zeno, are you on this game?
I'm going to lay it with Providence here. I got it at 1.5 earlier. Line has started to move. Listen, Marquette is in the middle of a 7-0 straight up an ATS run that actually started when they beat Providence the first time around. Providence is 12-0 at home this year, and they're 3-0 against the number against ranked opponents. Ed Cooley coaches a really good squad. Both of these teams statistically match up really, really well against each other. Providence only allows 64 points per game. That's 59th in America. I'm going to trust their defense here. When you talk about a one-possession line, I can back the undefeated team at home, probably for a half unit. It's not going to be a big play for me. But given how well Providence has played, especially against other Big East opponents, only one Big East loss, as I mentioned, the 1-2 Marquette. This is a little bit of a revenge game for these guys. I like Providence here. I'll lay the 1.5.
Yeah, and Providence didn't play too well in that first matchup.
No, they did not. The one thing I'll add, I don't have a play on this game, but I would agree with I would agree that Marquette, to me, can be a little bit inconsistent, especially on the road. And Providence has this like I don't know, it's like the luck of the luck of the Rhode Island teams, I guess. Providence leads the college basketball world in luck rating in the Ken Palm rankings this year. I don't know. Again, I don't know how that special sauce is made.
Yeah.
I need to dig into more about what goes into the luck rating in Ken Palm's rankings. But Providence continues to kind of just sleep with angels at certain times this year. So at home, I would think. Also, this was a postponed game. It was supposed to be played. I don't know when. Yeah. I think it was last week.
Well, it's interesting because Providence has only played 4 games since that last loss to Marquette. Marquette has played 7. Yeah. So they're a little bit of a better rested team at this point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Fascinating.
Any other basketball plays you guys are on today?
Sure.
I got a small little play on the over in Wisconsin and Minnesota. Over 136.5. Wisconsin 13-6 to the over this year. Minnesota 11-6, including Wisconsin going 8 of their last 10 over the number in an 8-0 run to the over. So there'll be some points scored in this game between these two teams. Wisconsin will push the pace, and I think Minnesota can do their job to keep up to get me over a fairly low 136 total.
Yeah. NBA props. How about the little NBA
action? Let's go. Give it out. Yeah.
Unfortunately, this game is starting right when the Chiefs game starts. So the odds of me watching this is 0, but I will be keeping an eye on the game tracker. Bulls, Blazers. Both props are assist props. Both props are plus money. So if we go 1-1, we make money here. CJ McCollum over 4.5 assists. He's gone over this in 2 straight, 3 of the last 5. Bulls 26th in opponent assists over their last 5 games, meaning assists that they give up. And Vucevic over 3.5 assists. That one was plus 105. Gone over in 3 straight. He had 8 against the Raptors the other night. The Blazers 24th in opponent assists over the last 5 games. So it's both teams bottom 10 in assists allowed over the last 5, and relatively low numbers for McCollum and Vucevic. Plus money territory over in assists for both of those guys today.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's head to the ice because we got some people in the chat talking about the NHL. So let's give out some ice picks. I'm going to start. I got the Penguins on the money line today against the Kings. Or at home, I think this is just a bad spot for the Kings, who are on the back end of a back-to-back here, and I believe this is also their third road game in 4 days.
Yeah.
And for the Kings, 35 this season on the second half of a back-to-back. So I just think this is just a bad spot for them. They've struggled offensively to be efficient. Get this, they rank 4th in shots per game, but only 21st in goals per game. So I think we're going to see some tired legs. The offensive efficiency kind of concerns me. And the Penguins, they've been playing good. Better offense on home ice. I'm just going to take them on the 3-way money line so we can get a little value here.
I don't mind it. Yeah, the Kings were on the East Coast all week. I know they played the Isles, the Rangers too.
Tough games too. Tough games.
Yeah, very tough games. Anytime you're on the East Coast for sure, especially with the weather we've been having here. So speaking of the weather, we'll see how the Kraken deal with the weather today, even though it's actually pretty nice out here in New York now. The snow's pretty much gone now. But the games are played inside anyway, so it's not a really big deal. But the Kraken and the Rangers were going under 6. Kraken have been held to 6 goals or less in 7 of their last 8. The only game that went over 6 goals was against the Panthers, our Ice Cats, who put up a big number on them last week. Shesterkin in net, I think, confirmed that. But if he is in net, he leads the NHL in goals saved above expected, plus 23.1. That is the analytical metric that we use to grade the net minders. And games with Igor in net have stayed under 5.5 in 5 of his last 7 starts. 2 shutouts this month. Shesterkin in net, under. That's the goal. I think that, games at the Garden today. So afternoon too, 1:00. So before the NFL game starts, you get a little appetizer with no goals, hopefully, in Rangers Kraken.
Well, we got a comment in the chat from Jared. Pens dropped 2 straight games they shouldn't have lost. Stay away from me right now. Yeah, they sold the other day when they were playing the Red Wings. I think that's the one that went to a shootout. Yeah, I was on that one too, and that one hurt. That one hurt me. But they're not in my my graveyard yet. As Jared, I haven't talked about my graveyard. Right, I haven't talked about teams or teams, coaches, players that I stay away from. But the Penguins are not there yet. But we'll discuss that at a later.
Teams on the shit list, Mark, and eventually there's not going to be any teams left to bet on.
Right.
I mean, I'll just say it. Will Wade, LSU basketball, done. Done with them. Off them forever. I'm done with them this year.
When Glaze breaks up with a girl, he breaks up hard, man.
No. See, I need to listen.
Everything's done.
No. Delete the number, delete the contact, delete the threads, block all everything. I need a clean.
Exist. She's gone.
That time never existed. No, I don't know.
Need to get you together, man. Unreal. I'm actually going to take the under in the San Jose Sharks Carolina game, under 6 as well. San Jose in the middle of this big East Coast swing here. Both of these teams coming off a back-to-back last night as both of them played. And Aiden Hill, the goaltender for the Sharks, now on injured reserve. So it'll be James Reimer in between the pipes today, which is a little bit of a liability, if you ask me, as far as the under is concerned, because his goals against isn't very good. But I just don't think there'll be much offense from either one of these teams, given what they played last night. And it's the first back-to-back for Carolina in quite some time, and the same for San Jose, first back-to-back this month. So I'm expecting a little bit of tired legs and slow scoring early. So I'll take the under 6 here.
All right. I like it. Well, if you guys are all right with it, let's move on. Let's give the people what they want. Let's give the people what they want. Let's talk some NFL. But before we do that, I have to mention that Jared and I will be live on Twitter during halftime of both of today's game. We're calling this the Pickswise Halftime Handicap. We're going to help you guys out with live bets and player props, and hopefully we're going to come together and give out one winner for each game at halftime. And we're going to obviously break down the games too. So we're going to do this halftime handicap, try it out. It should be a lot of fun. So make sure you tap in on Twitter, and we will be live starting at halftime. As soon as that whistle blows, get to Twitter. Let's start with the AFC, guys, because we got a little buyback for a little bit. The Bengals were catching 7.5 points right now on FanDuel. That is back to 7. Total 54.5. Do you guys have a feel for the sides? I know we're going to get into some props here, but do you have a feel or a lean for the side or total?
I think the Chiefs blow them out, but that's just my opinion. I don't think I'm willing to lay the 7 just because I have other angles that I think are more less backdoory than what Joe Burrow can do. Total wise, open 53.5. I jumped, actually it really opened lower than that, jumped up to 53.5 by Sunday after the Chiefs game against the Bills. And then I grabbed it at that price. It's now 54.5. I'm probably going to come back on the under just because I'm a little worried about the Bengals sustaining enough offense in this game. So no play on the side, total straight up. I think the teaser market's intriguing, and the props market to me today is very intriguing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's get into some of those props. Because I believe that a lot of one player that I think a lot of people are going to be interested in is Jamar Chase. When you look at this game, right? And we saw what the Chiefs were able to do against Stephon Diggs in that Bills game. Took him completely out of the game. 3 catches for 7 yards. Can you see them having a similar kind of performance today against Chase? And if so, who is that Bengals player that you can see stepping up into the Gabriel Davis role?
Well, you just hit on it, Clay. It's like, is it a win if you hold Stephon Diggs to 3 catches, but you give up 5 touchdowns and 250 yards receiving to somebody else? No, it's a win. Like that doesn't help you defensively. So I still think Jamar Chase is going to get his. In full disclosure, again, it's Cincinnati at 7.5 or nothing for me. Like there's way too much public on the Chiefs. There's way too much public on the over for me to even touch this game with 100-foot pole from that standpoint. I know that, people have talked about teasing it, and it is a lot of liability in Vegas with Kansas City teasers, and I think it's smart. In fact, I have a teaser as well with Kansas City down to -1. So I'm there with you guys. And I agree with Jared. I think absolutely this could be a blowout. This could be very similar to the AFC Championship game they played in last year that ended up 38-25, but the 25 came because there were 10 garbage points, including a field goal kick by the Bills when they were down by like 20 in the last 4 minutes of the game. Like it was complete garbage time points. I lean on the under a lot in this game. I just think it's a 35-13 kind of final. I don't think Cincinnati is ready for this moment. I think they're way in over their heads. I think this is a moment where they get outclassed and outschooled. My only worry about the over is getting backdoor. The under, rather, is getting backdoored the same way it happened last year with some garbage time points in the end. But I think Jamar Chase goes over his 5.5 receptions. I don't know about his yardage, but I think absolutely they will blanket him and they'll allow him to catch balls, right? They're just not going to allow him to run afterwards. So, and I don't think that T. Higgins or Tyler Boyd are anywhere near the speedy threat that Gabriel Davis is. So I think they can.
Whoa! Slow your roll there. I was with you until T. Higgins can move. Come on now.
Yeah, but I mean, okay. So, but T. Higgins doesn't run the routes that Gabriel Davis does. He's not running straight down the field. At least I don't see him as that kind of receiver. I know he's fast, but so is Jamar Chase. There's speed all over that offense. So. But again, I think the requisite target share is going to be there for Jamar Chase to go over 5.5.
All right, let's talk about some of the Bengals players that we're on today. I'll start the play that I love this. Joe Mixon over 3.5 receptions. He's become a big part of what the Bengals do offensively. He's gone over that number in 4 straight games. He's getting 7 targets against the Titans, 5 targets against the Raiders, 8 against the Chiefs the last time they played in the regular season finale. He's become kind of a safety blanket for Joe Burrow. And I think I can see this going over for a number of reasons. The main reason is what we saw against the Titans, right? Everyone knows Burrow was sacked 9 times, right? How do you slow down a pass rush and keep them honest? Those screens, those dump off passes to your running back, you got to keep those guys honest. So I just need 4 receptions. I think Mixon's going to get over that number pretty easily.
Game script denotes that too. If the Bengals are behind, they're chasing the number, you'll see more passes. I saw some interesting ones with Burrow's completions to the over at 23.5. That one's intriguing. I'll give you one trend, and then I'll give you my big prop card for this game. The one trend that I want to discuss is just Patrick Mahomes in these spots. He is the great equalizer. 5-0 straight up. 4-1 against the number since 2019, which is really, this Chiefs run that we've had when he's facing a team in the same year after losing earlier in the season. So to me and I know it's a team game. It's not all on Mahomes, but to me, that is the great equalizer when you have a quarterback like that who will, I think, have the last laugh. Even if the Bengals do pull ahead in this game, I don't think there's a spot where Patrick Mahomes will be unafraid of the moment. He was unbelievable last week. That being said, Travis Kelce, anytime touchdown. Shop this number around. I got it at -105 at Bet365. He scored in both playoff games, 5 straight if you go back to the regular season. Cincinnati has allowed the 4th most receptions to tight ends this season. I've been on the Kelce bandwagon all week. This is an interesting one. One of our friends, one of our fellow content creator friends, put this one out into the Twitterverse earlier this week, and I love it so much that I'm going to give it out to you guys as well. The Bengals to take the first timeout in this game is -115 at BetMGM. I don't understand how this isn't -140 or higher. This year, Cincinnati's called the first timeout 71% of games, 78% on the road. And just think of the script. Like to me, it just makes sense.
I'll tell you why, because their coach is a putz.
Yeah, that to me is certainly
he's an ill-prepared coach and puts his team in bad position, so they have to call timeouts.
And you throw in the fact that they're playing this game on the road at Arrowhead in an environment that Joe Burrow, I know he's played in the SEC. I know he said that the SEC doesn't hold, it's bigger.
That was
than
a mistake for him to say that. That was a mistake for him to say that.
Absolutely was. He will be hearing it from the crowd
So
a lot.
it's not even for him. For his offensive line, it was a complete mistake for him to say that.
Totally agree. So Bengals first time out at -115. How about a Chiefs receiver that we're probably not talking enough about? Prop bet guy gave out Byron Pringle's receptions prop, which I think is great. I'm going to give out the yards at 36.5. And when I look at Pringle, he's only played in weeks 1 through 9. He only played on 35% of snaps. Well, that snap rate's gone up to 64% over his last 10. He's had at least 7 targets, at least 5 catches in 4 of the last 5. He's hit 37 yards in 3 of those games, 35-29 in the other 2 that he didn't. And the Bengals defense gives up a ton of catches to receivers this year, 66% catch rate. That's the 6th highest in the league to receivers. I think Pringle also at a first touchdown sprinkle, 14-1 isn't a bad price either. Finally, my last prop in this game, I love this. This is probably my favorite of the one. Melvin Ingram to record a sack is plus 225. He was on the field for 75% of the snaps against the Bills. And he also had a sack against Josh Allen. And what have we been talking about all week with the Bengals offensive line? Joe Burrow can't stay upright. Game script should dictate the Bengals are throwing it a lot. Burrow, I'm assuming there's going to be at least 2 or 3 sacks by the Chiefs defensive line in this game. Ingram at plus 225 is a good number on FanDuel to get a sack.
Jared, you're bringing up receivers that nobody's talking about. I actually have a prop that I love this. McCole Hardman, longest reception, over 13.5 yards. Gone over that number in 6 of the last 7 games that they've played. And we don't need him to we don't need a bunch of catches. We just need one. And he's that guy that can fly. He is, I don't want to say he's Tyreek Hill, but when Hill was in, the reason he got drafted by the Chiefs is when Hill was going through those troubles. They weren't sure if Hill was going to be able to play. They looked at him as a guy that could step into that role, and now they just pretty much have 2 Tyreek Hills. He can fly. He's the guy that can take one of those little pop passes, and we just need to get 14 yards. 14 yards. So I'm looking at that, and I think that is there's some good value there because he's gone over that number, like I said, 6 of the last 7. So McCole Hardman, I'm going to be looking for number 17 to take 14 yards or more.
I would add this, guys, and it's interesting how we're all playing out this game script with the Bengals throwing so much, which is exactly the wrong game script they should have. The only way they can win this game is if it goes under.
You're right.
They're not going to win an over game against the Chiefs. It's not going to happen. And so they should be running the ball, but I just don't see it. Like, I don't see them being Joe Mixon should get 27 carries today, even if they're not working, because the only thing you can do to slow down the Chiefs offense is keep them off the field. But yet we're all creating this game script where they're going to throw a ton. So it's just interesting to note that everybody wants to replay the Bills game this week because it's Joe Burrow. But here's the thing. One, Joe Burrow isn't Josh Allen. Settle, okay? Let's settle. He's good. He's not Josh Allen. And he doesn't have Josh Allen's offensive line, nor does he really have the full complement of weapons that the Bills have all over the field. Jamar Chase is a better receiver than most of the guys in the NFL at this point in year 1, but still, the Bills are a much more complete offense and a much more seasoned offense than they are than the Cincinnati Bengals are. That all aside, my props are pretty simple. CJ Uzomah over 3.5 receptions and anytime touchdown for CJ Uzomah at plus 220. I think those are really good. He's become quite the security blanket for Joe Burrow. And while the Kansas City Chiefs will focus on the outside on Higgins and Jamar Chase, that'll leave the middle of the field open for Uzomah to get 4 catches easily. I love Tyreek Hill over 24.5 yards for his longest reception. This should come in rather easily. All he's going to do is end up breaking one. I mean, he got 11 targets last week. He's going to get the number of targets needed to break this thing. And you know you'll find him at some point streaking down the field. So I think that one is great. And my favorite play, although it's a little bit of a flyer, plus 260, anytime touchdown by Kansas City special teams or defense. I don't think 9 sacks are possible, but I certainly think a sack, strip, fumble recovery for a touchdown is, a pick 6 is, or even where they put Tyreek Hill back there to catch a punt for a goof and he takes it to the house. I mean, it's weird, guys, because I feel like I should be in the plus 300 range for a play like
better
this.
than 260.
Yeah, but it kind of makes me think that they really believe this thing is going to happen.
Agreed, especially if it's on FanDuel. FanDuel tends to shade these numbers in the direction of the market. And that's why the Kelsey prop is minus 155 for him to score on FanDuel, and it's minus 105 at Bet365. That's a 10% implied odds difference, not to go back to Kelsey, but FanDuel does tend to be sharper on these props because I think they're more manually adjusting the market than some of the other sports books are.
All right, let's move on to the NFC Championship game. It seems like everyone's talking Niners, right? Niners getting 3.5 points.
Huge
on the road
liability on the Niners.
in LA. That total is 45.5. All I've heard is Niners. So I'll just start this one the same way. Are either of you on a side or total for this game?
Zeno, I know you are in your play of the day, so I don't want to take that away.
Okay.
But I'm looking at the exposure here, and I am not seeing Niners based on the splits.
Nope.
So the money line is saying Niners, but the spread's saying Rams.
Well, where the liability is, there's a lot of futures tickets on the Niners to win the NFC and win the Super Bowl. So that's where all you keep hearing Niners, and that's where the exposure in Vegas is. All the sharps have these tickets at the beginning of the playoffs. There were even some exacta futures about KC and San Fran in the Super Bowl at 60-1 before the playoffs kicked off that they're out there. So there's a lot of liability on the Niners just to win this game and get to the Super Bowl, not necessarily on Niners getting the 3.5 in the game itself.
Well, what are you guys on for this one? I've been talking all week about my boy Tyler Higbee over 39.5 yards. I mean, I've been giving that. When was that? Tuesday, Jared?
That's when Lazard from
no. Lazard let me down. We flush and forget that. We're on to
Did you get never getting bet on ever again?
Yeah. We're on to no. Lazard. I'm not putting Lazard in the graveyard yet. Lazard.
Okay. All right.
That's not on him. That's not on him. That's not on him.
I'll give out my props for this game. So my opinion on this game to me is the Niners need to get off to a strong start. They need to run the ball effectively. And if they do, that'll be the recipe for Jimmy G to do some things with his arm. But that being said, I do think the Jimmy G prop passing yards is a little low at 226.5. The narrative is very negative on Jimmy G. Like everyone is just hating on Jimmy G.
And it's incorrect.
Yeah, I agree. And you know, when you look at the numbers against the Rams, 75% completion percentage, and the Rams have only given up 9 yards per play or more, 9 yards per attempt or more twice all season, both times to Jimmy G. He just seems to figure this offense or this defense out. And there's two reasons. One, the Rams play the lightest box on early downs. So the running game is open on early downs, which leads to the play action game. And the Rams also struggle to defend the middle of the field. And that's where Jimmy G does the most of his damage. Play action, those dig routes over the middle, guys like Kittle, guys like Debo that can just take it and go. So I think 226.5, especially if the Rams are getting the early lead and the Niners are forced to throw in this game. That is a very low total for a quarterback.
Yes.
I've got to go to a kicking prop because I love these kicker props. One of my buddies sent me this one last night, and I'm going to hop on it. Robbie Gould over 1.5 made field goals. So the Niners have attempted at least 2 field goals in 4 straight games. Gould's like the most accurate kicker in the league, 89% on field goals, 97% on extra points. He only missed 1 all year. So if he is on the field, I'm confident that he'll make it. So Gould to make over 1.5 field goals is plus 110. A little Penn State love for you there too. I'll take a running back prop as well. Cam Akers under 62.5 rushing yards. I'm a little worried about game script here if the Rams get a lead, but he stayed under in both playoff games. I think Sony Michel is going to be a factor in this game, especially after the fumbles that Akers had in the last game. And the Niners are 7th in rushing success rate since week 4, 6th on early downs. So I think the Niners rushing defense is going to be up to the task in this game. And then here's my flyer, my fun prop of the day. Kyle Juszczyk, anytime touchdown at 6-1. This is a complete gut feeling. There's not a lot of numbers to support.
There's nothing wrong with that gut. Kyle Shanahan still uses a fullback like nobody else does in this league. And I looked at Juszczyk
Super Bowl last year.
Yeah, Juszczyk over 9.5 receiving yards. I mean, he usually will get that in one catch. That's a smart play, Jared.
6-1 on Juszczyk to score. So he had 2 carries last week, 2 receptions against the Cowboys. So at least he's getting a little bit of love in the offense. He scored twice this season, 1 rushing touchdown against the Falcons in week 16, a receiving one against the Packers in week 3, which was a really important game. That was a Sunday night game. And I think the first touchdown at 35-1, I mean, you got to throw a little sprinkle on that too if you're betting him to score. So That's where I'm at with this game. 4 props, no official side, no official total, but I would lean Niners and the under on the side.
Looking at the chat, Ryan likes that Cam Akers play. He was just asking about it before you
62
brought
and
it
a
up.
half is a high total. He hasn't gone over that in any play.
The fumbles for me is what I like that too, because I think Sony
Michel's
going to get a lot of action in this one.
Yeah.
Question for you guys, because we know the narrative surrounding both of these quarterbacks. They both are prone to making mistakes, right? And they throw interceptions pretty regularly, which I will touch on later in my play of the day. But can I interest any of you in an interception parlay for Jimmy G and Matt Stafford to both throw an interception plus 205? Can I interest either of you in that?
Well, Stafford's avoided the bugaboo so far in the playoffs, right? He hasn't thrown a pick yet. So you almost feel like one is coming. And Jimmy G has thrown one in each of the last 3 weeks. So there is one coming from Jimmy G today. It's just a question of whether you believe Stafford will do it. The thing for Jimmy G is that the interceptions actually haven't hurt him because they haven't lost the turnover battle. The defense has gotten one back for him. So it's kind of changed things from that standpoint. I can't get into goofy, parlays like that. It's just not my thing.
Interceptions are very fluky.
Yeah,
I think it's hard to rely on prior game scripts and stats based on interceptions because the ball gets tipped and it happens. It's
not getting tipped when Jimmy G's throwing the picks. I can tell you that. I mean, just from the past.
He kind of throws it directly to the other team, Jimmy G.
Yeah, there's no.
He has a tendency to just throw it to the other team.
Every time Jimmy throws the ball, I get my heart's in my throat about an interception. I mean, the odds are definitely saying Jimmy's going to throw one today, but those are super fluky props. But if you're interested in gambling,
plus 205,
maybe name of the game, right?
Zeno, what do you want for this game?
All right, I'm with Jared on the over 220. I got it at 224.5. It's up 226 now on Jimmy G. Just too low of a number. He knows this team too well. Kyle Shanahan knows how to scheme this open. He's going to throw today. He's going to be successful. Clearly, there's going to be no weather elements or anything. You're going to have a fast track. So I feel really comfortable about Jimmy G going over 224.5 yards. Cam Akers, Sony Michel, rather. Anytime touchdown plus 290. You guys mentioned the fumbling issues. I think he'll be their goal line back. I certainly think that is a very favorable number at plus 290. I couldn't believe it was actually that high. And so I'm gonna give Sony Michel an anytime touchdown. Deebo Samuel over 40.5 yards. He went over this total in both of the previous meetings between these two teams. Clearly, he's going to get the rushing attempts. Same for Elijah Mitchell, over 69.5 rushing yards. He went over this total in both previous meetings against the Rams. And he is a guy that is used in this offense against a defense like the Rams that's very aggressive up front. And so he'll be able to break free and have some opportunities to gain some yards. I think he goes over that number as well. I'm going to back Odell Beckham Jr. again for the second consecutive week. His receptions prop last week was 3.5. This week it's 4.5. And I believe that Matt Stafford will do the same exact thing. He will get him the ball early and often, much similar to what LeBron does with his teammates. Get these guys involved, get them invested in the game, because what have we seen from Odell when he's not invested early? We start lollygagging a little bit. So if he gets him a couple of passes early, I think that he easily can go over that 4.5 and over 52.5 receiving yards. If he goes over his receptions prop, he certainly will go over the yardage prop. And one more little bit of a flyer here for me on Elijah Mitchell. He did not catch a pass in either of the first two meetings against the Rams. His receptions prop is 1.5 and it's 10.5 yards. Much similar to a gut feeling with Jared at Juszczyk. I just kind of believe that he's going to get a couple of passes in the passing game and go over the yardage or go over the receptions prop itself. I think if he gets 2 receptions, clearly he'll get 10 yards, but just sort of a gut feeling. Small play for me on Elijah Mitchell in the receiving game.
Jared, can you tell he's a Giants fan by that little jab that he threw at Odell there? Just that subtle. It was very subtle.
I'm not a bit. So I've been really critical of Odell too over the years, but I'm wrong about him this year. He's really bought into the Rams, so I'm happy for.
Of course, he's bought in. He's winning, and no one's complaining about him, and he's getting the ball.
I think this is a better system for him than with the Giants, just because as good as Eli was in the clutch, consistency was not Eli's strength. Stafford's a little more consistent with where he puts the ball and how he puts the deep throws. And I think the offense that the Rams run just suits Odell better. And obviously the Browns situation was a total disaster for Odell. I mean, that was the worst possible situation for him to go to. I don't know why he did that. But the Odell vibes have been stronger. He's a guy that I didn't think could win a Super Bowl because it's me. But it's been less me, at least from what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing.
All right, let's move on to our plays of the day. Jay, we got a 3-star on the site.
Yeah, there's a couple. Hold on, let me see. Yeah, he's got the Rangers. Connor's been really hot with his NHL picks. So we'll give out the Rangers on the money line. It's spicy at -185. So that's a spicy one for you today. But again, it's an early game, 1:00 Eastern, so you won't have to overlap with the football. And our best bets record this year, 52-36 on the 3-star best bets over at Pickswise. So go read why Connor Grutenheis likes the Rags today, laying 85 cents on the money line at home against the Kraken.
Love it. What's your play?
So I gave this out in the column. It was my only pick in the best bets column this week. It is a 2, and we don't do this too often on the show. I've only given out one other 2-unit POD. That was Georgia money line in the Natty a few weeks ago. And I think this one is warranted of a 2-unit play of the day. It is a teaser. What do we say about the NFL lines this time of year? They're as sharp as sharp gets.
Sharp.
What do? We manipulate the lines in our favor. We move them through key numbers, and we take advantage of the fact that the books let us tease for a relatively low price. Caesars and DraftKings let you do it for 20 cents. Those are the sports books I recommend for this particular bet. We're moving the Chiefs from 7 to 1. We're moving the Niners from 3.5 to 9.5. A 2-unit -120 teaser involves both games. Kansas City just has to win, and the Niners just have to keep it close, and we're going to hopefully get to the window on this baby.
Love it. I actually played that teaser earlier in the week. So
Great teaser.
Yeah. Zeno, what do you want for your play today?
Well, I'm going to back the San Francisco 49ers getting 3.5. Kyle Shanahan, 27-18 against the number as a dog. That's 60%. Jimmy Garoppolo, 15-4 against the number as a dog. That is 79%. The Niners have an extra day of rest. They've beaten the Rams twice this year already. Jimmy G is going back to the Super Bowl, but I'll take the Niners getting 3.5 today as my play of the day.
All right. Well, I'm going to stick with that game for my play. I'm going with Jimmy G to throw an interception. He's thrown one in each of the Niners playoff games, 6 interceptions in the Niners' last 4 games, including 2 in that regular season finale against the Rams. We're talking about game script a lot today. Jimmy G's going to have to throw the ball. Do you trust Jimmy G to throw the ball? I don't. I think he's going to give it up. I think he's going to give it up. We're talking about tip ball this, tip ball that. He just throws it to the other team. And it's juiced a little bit, but I think it's going to happen. It's going to come home. Jimmy G throwing an interception today. So that's my play here. Before we go, though, I want to throw out a kick pick to you, Jared, if you are feeling comfortable. We have a question about the qualifying game today between Team USA and Canada. Do you have a feel for that?
Great scheduling, CONCACAF, right in the middle of Championship Sunday. Even the PGA moved their tournament up this week to not conflict with the Championship Sunday games. So I'll be honest, I haven't looked at it at all. But who does Team USA play?
Canada.
Yeah, they should win, right? I haven't looked. I have not capped it. Don't think about what I'm saying is gospel because I have not looked 1 minute, 1 ounce of effort looked at CONCACAF's qualifying. But Team USA should beat every team in CONCACAF with the exception of maybe Mexico. But they don't for some reason. So maybe bet. I don't know what the money line is, but Team USA should win.
We have a comment in here that I feel like would be my handicap. As Pulisic goes, so does USA. I think that's
but I haven't done any research. So I don't know who's even in the lineups, but I know Team USA has been dealing with a lot of injuries, but maybe those injuries have kind of subsided over the last few weeks. I know the last round of qualifying a few weeks ago, they were dealing with basically a B, C+ squad in some of these matches. So check the lineups. If Pulisic is in, then yes, Team USA definitely gets a little more attention on the money line, I would say.
All right. And of course, just one last mention here. Make sure you join Jared and I at halftime of both of these conference championship games. We're going to be live on Twitter, not on YouTube, on Twitter for the Pickswise halftime handicap show. We're going to be helping you out with live bets and talking some player props and coming together to give out one winner as we break down the first half and look ahead to the second half of both of the conference championship games. Halftime, Twitter, Jared, me, halftime handicap, be there.
Exciting day. We really do.
Listen, I'm looking forward to
watching sports since like 5 a.m. I woke up to watch the Aussie Open final. Then there was a crazy finish in the championship that we just missed. Derby had like a late tying goal against Birmingham. Then we got college basketball at noon, hockey at 1, NFL at 3:40. What else you got to do all day?
I mean,
live life, baby.
There it is.
You got to eat, right? You got to drink. Make sure you drink your
I got
water.
some little pieces. That's all we need, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, for Jared and Zeno, I'm Alex. We will be back tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Good luck with all your plays today, and we'll see you at halftime.